Hello, I'm Benjamin Hart, and this is the news. I made another video over on our other channel, so over on Integrity Legal Thailand, which I believe I called Cannabis Part of Thailand's, quote, New Economic Power Cluster, unquote. And in there, let me just go ahead and quote. I quote from a recent article from the Bangkok Post, bangkokpost.com, article's title, BJT's Chance to Rebuild. Quoting directly, the current friction over cabinet portfolios illustrates these risks. Bumjai Thai covets the Ministry of Agriculture and cooperatives long controlled by Klatam politicians. Under this vision, agriculture would become part of a new economic power cluster linked to the Ministry of Commerce, overseen by Commerce Minister Supaji Sutumpan. There's a couple of background points to kind of get into here, and I don't want to get too deep into this, and I'm not looking to cast aspersions at anybody, but I think it's important, if only, to chronicle where things are at this moment and what is happening. I don't think people get what is happening. You know what I know? Most people, especially Westerners, don't get what is happening. I think the Western elite, so-called, especially in light of recent disclosures and things, I hate using that word under certain circumstances. That said, you know, among those who are, if you will, pure of heart, whatever, the Western elite, I think they are somewhat aware of these things. Marco Rubio recently was talking about the dollar, how things are changing, how the reserve currency system is changing, and then his recent remarks at the Munich conference I thought were interesting as well, where he basically said, look, you know, we're going to be in alliance with Europe and everything, but the era of you basically looking down your nose at us and then taking our money is over. And I was glad to hear that. That said, it remains to be seen if it actually happens. Circling back here to this new economic power cluster. So again, Bumjai Thai covers the Ministry of Agriculture and cooperatives long controlled by Klatam politicians. Okay, the leader of Klatam is a gentleman by the name of Tamanat Prompao. Now, going over here to BBC, under the title, Thailand Court Allows Minister to Keep Post Despite Drug Conviction, quoting directly, Thailand's top court has allowed a government minister to keep his job, dismissing a bid to disqualify him over a past conviction for trafficking in Australia. Tamanat Prompao was jailed for 4 years in 1994 for his role in a heroin smuggling case. Okay, that's a pretty big deal, and I know that there are those out there who would say, oh, you know, how can that be? Well, one, he wasn't convicted in Thailand. It's different jurisdiction. So, you know, as far as the Thais are concerned, he was abroad. Meanwhile, there's deeper implications to all of this, I think. My personal opinion is, you know, if anybody asked me, it was like there were people in my mind in the last election I'd be far less likely to vote for than that guy. I'll just put it that way. That said, I think it's interesting. I think it's very interesting that I made a video, and now bear in mind this was sort of my conclusion, but I made a video that I thought cannabis was the new economic power cluster. And that's why the agricultural ministry was coveted, if you will, by Bumjai Thai, because it fits in with the through line of cannabis. I think it does. I think these two things can be true at the same time. But I think there's something deeper going on here. I'm going to go ahead and put this up on screen. This is from over at the South Asia Investor Review. And this is an economic history of China and other major powers. And if you look back, it will take you, it'll take you back to 1,000, 1,500, 1,600. Well, that's not very useful. Then we get to 1,700. Then we get to 1820. And when you go to 1820, you see that places like the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Russia even, Japan, India, China, there was a time in here where if you go back into before 1820, the British are very, very dominant economically in a sort of a, how would you call it, sort of an outsized way. And I think if you looked at the century or 120 years between 1700 and 1820, you'd sit there and go, oh my gosh, that's, they were really dominant during that time. Now the United States hit its industrial stride in about the mid-1800s and then just started basically just knocking it out of the park economically thereafter. I mean, industrialization and then digitization, all kinds of things, the avionic age and all kinds of things. That said, look at the overall trend. Things are moving back. If you will, I think we're moving through what Dave Collum, a guy I like to listen to out there in the ether of the internet, he's a Cornell professor, calls reversion to the mean. The east-west dynamic of economics is reverting to the mean. The past, call it 300 odd years, have been largely an aberration if you look at time in a more general sense. If you look at it going back further, it just is an aberration. You know, and people can like this, hate this, whatever, but this is what is happening. And I think it's important that people bear in mind that that's what's happening and understand that this is what's happening in the backdrop for something that was then, again, going back to Bangkok Post, BangkokPost.com, and the reason for the thumbnail, again, from the Big Lebowski, your revolution is over, Mr. Lebowski. Condolences, the bums lost. You know, looks to me like maybe we're finally seeing the final end, if you will, and I think the climax happened some time ago, but perhaps we're at the end of the denouement, if you will, of the Opium Wars. And again, Bangkok Post, BangkokPost.com, article is titled, Opium Seen as Promising Medicinal Crop. Quoting directly, opium cultivation could become a viable option to enhance Thailand's proficiency in plant-based medicine while also assisting local farmers, says Deputy Public Health Minister Worachat Sukhon, speaking at the Department of Thai Traditional and Alternative Medicine on Wednesday. Mr. Worachat said the Ministry of Public Health could become an economic engine due to its ability to generate value from holistic medical treatment, wellness, and Thai herbal products, which are widely accepted internationally. Quoting further, the ministry has been working closely with various agencies to develop and promote herbal plants to increase the economic value for local communities. Thailand currently imports morphine from overseas, but it would be better if the raw material could be cultivated domestically, benefiting farmers and enabling them to replace low-value crops with higher-value plantations, unquote, he said. Quote, any plantation must be conducted carefully and under strict authority inspection. Close cooperation with the Narcotics Suppression Bureau is essential to ensure no leakage outside controlled channels. Dr. Mingkwan Supanapong, Managing Director of the Government Pharmaceutical Organization, said that opium and its derivatives are among the most commonly used medications for treating acute and chronic pain, costing the country around 300 million baht a year. She said the GPO is working closely with the NSB to research and develop morphine derived from opium with the goal of reducing imports. Quote, the GPO has already succeeded in laboratory-scale morphine production using plant materials provided by the police's anti-drug agency, most from confiscated cases and some from trial plantations under NSB oversight, unquote, she said. Quote, we have invested 36 million baht to establish a semi-industrial plant in Rangsit, Pathum Thani to scale up morphine production for commercial use. Dr. Mingkwan added, if possible, future policy may allow commercial-scale opium cultivation, but extreme caution is required to ensure full control. Opium has high medicinal potential, and further research is needed to maximize its benefits. On Wednesday, the GPO and the Department of Thai Traditional and Alternative Medicine signed a memorandum of understanding to modernize and promote Thai herbal medicine, for example, by repackaging traditional formulas as tablets while also enhancing marketing channels. So, here's our data points here. Boom Jai Thai, which just took over power, is coveting the Agriculture and Cooperatives Ministry. Meanwhile, the heretofore minister there, who seems to be rather friendly and it looks like they're going to be part of the overall coalition, he actually got arrested for trafficking in heroin, which is an opium byproduct. So one would think he at least has some working knowledge of all of that stuff. And then meanwhile, we've got this talk about the possibility of refining opium in Thailand, etc. And again, I think it's really important to note, this is again from Worachat and he is the Deputy Public Health Minister. And he said, I quote this again, the ministry has been working closely with various agencies to develop and promote herbal plants to increase the economic value for local communities. Thailand currently imports morphine from overseas. Thailand currently imports morphine from overseas, but it would be better if the raw material could be cultivated domestically. It looks to me like there may be some indication that Thailand wants to go ahead and start fully refining and making its own pharmaceuticals across the board. And once I saw it this way, it made a lot more sense because I was always like, man, that guy, he's got a conviction in another jurisdiction. It seems just, or purportedly does. And it seems like that would be like a political liability. But no, he's continued to be in politics, hang on in politics, and not only hang on in politics, Klatam, arguably maybe only second to Boom Jai Thai, came out as the sort of surprise winner in this past election, and he's got pretty considerable clout. Not quite unlike Boom Jai Thai has often had, where it has this sort of middleman kind of role within the parliament. But that being said, perhaps, he just has a working knowledge of these affairs, and Thailand is looking to change things. Now, what does this mean? Do I think Thailand is going to legalize heroin or legalize opium? No, not at all. In fact, I think, if anything, it'll probably get stricter in terms of any type of criminal penalties or anything associated with opium. But it looks like that the country may be tired of importing this stuff. And, they feel like they have the ability to go ahead and do this stuff themselves and do it domestically and save that money and, build their own internal industry associated with it, create jobs off of it, be able to control our own pharmaceutical supply chain here in Thailand. What's wrong with that? I understand in terms of the national interest, I completely get it. It's interesting to see how this is playing out. Again, I do not think there's going to be some mass legalization, so don't run out and say, oh, Ben's like, oh, it's, opium's going to be legalized. No, I think what's happening here is we are finally, not finally, we've been feeling these tectonic shifts for years, but the momentum is gaining. And look, Thailand is no longer in a position where she necessarily has to, how shall we say, conform to sort of outside influence regarding the issue of opium. If you know the history of the Opium Wars, if you know the history of what was once called the Asia trade, this was integral to the economics out here for a couple of hundred years. Now, in more recent times, not quite as directly so, but this is big business. There's big money in this stuff. And as we have seen, I think it was Lavrov just the other day, the foreign minister up in Russia, was talking about how it was going to be a weird few years as the West was dealing with the fact that, we're moving into a multipolar world, but they would cling to the institutions that they were used to from the old order, if you will. And I'm paraphrasing him. But yeah, I don't think that was an inaccurate observation. And I think that this is just one more of the data points in favor of, the notion that, hey, this kind of stuff is no longer going to be produced exclusively in other places and by interests from the West. It's now going to be a much more homegrown, no pun intended, organic industry. Again, no pun intended. Again, that does not imply that I think opium is going to become readily available in any way, shape, or form in Thailand. Again, if they control their own supply chains and things, I could see a situation where it becomes even harder to get, in terms of like recreational usage or something. So I think we're in, all joking aside, I'm not really trying to make this to like rub the West's nose in it or something. I just have these little sort of brain quirks where I see these clips from movies and then it connects things in my head with other things. So I basically make the audience have to go through that with me. But yeah, I think we're seeing serious changes out here, and I think we could see serious changes in Thailand's pharmaceutical industry, and I think they're probably going to happen sooner rather than later. That said, thank you all for watching. To the folks that are interested in bwh.club, I am making videos at this time. If I haven't made it already and put it out to the folks that are on the paid news service, yeah, I got that, I'll get a video out to you and I will explain how we're going to deal with bwh.club. To folks who are interested, please feel free to email us at media@integrity-legal.com. In the title, just put bwh.club and I will sort you out as far as that goes. Also, while I'm plugging things, my better half and I have a restaurant here in downtown Bangkok, Pancake Palace, breakfast anytime, again, as well as American diner style food. So if you're interested in that, links are in the description below. But thanks for watching, and I'm going to keep making news like this. I know the format's a little different, but my format over on my main channel is a little different. I just do things the way I do them. I hope people find some of this information enlightening, and thanks for watching.